Okay, continuing. Page 34, Introduction. Owen's own view is similar, seeing sanctification as the work of God in and through the life of the believer. This is not passivity, but active living empowered by the Spirit of life. Two concepts commonly appear in early Reformed approaches to our sanctification: mortification and vivification. Building on the language and imagery of Colossians 3, 9, and 10. The idea of mortification was understood as a putting off of the old man, and vivification was conceived as the reality of being made alive by the Spirit. Although the actual language of vivification is found less often in Owen than in earlier theologians like John Calvin. It's not good to take a drink in the middle of a sentence. Okay, back to the beginning of the sentence. Although the actual language of vivification is found less often in Owen than in earlier theologians like John Calvin or the renowned Puritan Thomas Goodwin, the idea is clearly present. These twin ideas of sanctification require not only the shedding of sin, but also renewal in grace. A practical example of how this works out may prove helpful. Consider a man who is struggling with inappropriate sexual thoughts about one of his female co-workers. What does holiness look like in this case? Very often Christians have a truncated view of sanctification, which stops far too short of true righteousness. Although it would be a good thing for this man to get to the point that he no longer looks at this woman as an object of lust, that is not all that is hoped for in sanctification. Rather, in the power of the Spirit, the goal is to move to a life-affirming position. Thus, the objective is not the absence of thoughts about this woman, but the presence of a godly appreciation for her. Under normal circumstances, this man should not simply try to deny her existence by avoiding her, but rather begin treating her with dignity, offering words that build her up instead of dehumanizing her with his thoughts. Ultimately, lust will be replaced by genuine and appropriate respect and love. Similarly, the goal of dealing with gossip is not merely the absence of slander, which is the good work of mortification, but eventually the creating of an environment of encouragement, peace, and trust. Further fruits of the Spirit enlivening presence and work. Following the trajectory of thought of theologians like Calvin and Owen, sanctification involves both putting sin to death and becoming free to love and obey. Section Conclusion. We have briefly explored a few themes from Owen's thought that might help prepare readers for what they are about to encounter in his writings on sin, mortification, and temptation. Several things will quickly become apparent, such as recognizing that the language, sentence structure, and sometimes his sensitivities are not modern. As you read, do not be surprised to feel a certain amount of historical distance between yourself and Owen. To deny such differences would be naive and problematic. The goal is not to create romantic views of the past, hoping to usher Christians back to some sort of pure 17th century setting. Owen makes it perfectly clear that the power of sin and Satan were just as real then as now. Believers should read Owen not to return to the past, but to gain insight into how they might more faithfully live in the present and prepare for the future. Quote, "Be killing sin, or it will be killing you." End quote. Culture has changed, but sinful human nature has not. For centuries, Owen's works have challenged Christians to think afresh about how they face the reality of sin and temptation. Now Owen serves yet another generation of believers, calling us to wake from sleepy and apathetic attitudes toward holiness, demanding that we engage in honest self-reflection. But he doesn't stop there, for he intends to excite in us a renewed sense of the tender mercy of God, who delights to commune with his people. Owen's thoughts are before you. You stand at the threshold of Dr. John Owen's office. Will you enter and receive the diagnosis and stay to hear your cure? And that's a good place to end a section, I believe, of transmission. We're getting ready to get into the text. 6-minute section here. I hope this might be efficaciously beneficent for some people. Maybe we're going to go with a different camera angle. This is rather unprofessional. I am still somewhat of a hillbilly at heart. And it's okay. Maybe for a bit, y'all could, if you were looking up at me from there, it would seem more like I'm speaking to you. No, that's all like looking up at the master. Look down on me. Okay, we're cutting it off for now. We'll do another one in a minute. Adios, das vidania.